You know what? I think the Jaguar GT, the EV, the Concept 00, whatever it's called, I think it might actually. I don't know, but I think it might actually work in production form because we have some spy photos now, some spy videos, and we're gonna have a look at that. But first of all, we just reached 100,000 subscribers on this channel, and to me, it's just mind blowing that so many people I guess enjoy the videos that I'm ranting about car design and want to check in and talk about car design. It's very unreal to think about. I do have my other channel as well, the Sketch Monkey channel, which I had since I do believe 2007. This channel is a lot younger than that, and it feels really good to reach the milestone of 100,000 subscribers. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the channel, commented, liked any video on this channel. It really means a lot to me. And I don't know, it's crazy to think about. Rosie, I think, is crazy too, because every time I start recording, she jumps up here. She's part of this channel now, I guess. Just coming up here and saying hello. I'm dropping my price on my sketch course to $29 for the next 30 days. As a thank you to the 100,000 subscribers. So if you've been thinking about getting it for I think it was 47 before. I'm dropping it even more now. $29. I don't think I can really lower it any more than that. So this is going to go on for 30 days. So if you're interested in that, you can go and check that out down below in the description, or go to analogdesignerpropack.com. And again, once again, thank you so much for every single subscriber of this channel and everybody who has been part of this journey. Even if you're an old or new subscriber to the channel, it really means a lot. So with that said, let's move forward to 200,000 subscribers, shall we? Let's start with the new electric GT that will either save or kill Jaguar. I think that is a true statement here from Car Scoops. This statement that they have, that this is a make it or break it car for Jaguar, because they haven't dropped new cars in a long time. The production version of the Type 00 concept will offer up to 430 miles of range. Not bad at all. We're going to have to wait and see, of course, in real time, real world range. Is it really going to be 430 miles, or is it going to be closer to 350 like we used to see from all these stats when they come out? So following in the footsteps of the Type 00 concept, but it features a tamer design, and this is why I think it's definitely not Jaguar, because it's way too boxy to be a Jaguar, this thing. Jaguar, I mean, the logo is a pouncing Jaguar. Dynamic. It doesn't get more dynamic than a pouncing Jag, in nature. It's one of the most dynamic movements ever, and this has nothing to do with that type of movement. So to me, it's still not a Jaguar, but I think it's gonna look a whole lot better than the Type 00 concept that we've seen already. So continues testing their electric four-door GT. They were testing it in Sweden because I saw an ICA store in the video there, which was maybe a little homesick. It's a grocery store that we have all across Sweden. I used to go there as a kid all the time, buy some ice cream and stuff. But anyway, it's slated to be introduced late this year and will be built in the UK. So it will be a domestic car, even built in the UK, which is great to see. Now we can see the production model will have an upright front fascia and slender headlights. You got bigger changes of the car further back. That is, I think, the biggest problem was probably the air con vents that we had in the concept. It looks maybe a little different here in the rear. It's heavily camo. I mean, they just wrapped this with blankets and all kinds of stuff in the back here to make this so we can't see at all what the rear end looks like. But I do think it's going to look a lot better than the concept, hopefully at least. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very, very tough sell for Jag. So you got 4 doors and a larger greenhouse as well on the production version. Designers also gave the car flush-mounted door handles and a massive charging cover port cover. So rear end is heavily disguised, but could be far more harmonious than the appliance-like rear end seen on the Type 00. Details are hard to make out, but it appears that the model has this more slender design, both in the front. You can see the curvatures in the front end, for example. These rounded features. It's not like static fridge design anymore. We have a little bit of curvatures going on here, which we gotta have that in a Jaguar. So you have split taillight bar as well. Range up to 430 miles. We're gonna see about that, as well as fast charging. 15 minutes to get 200 miles of range, which is pretty standard, I would say. So looking at the rear end here we have some better photos of the rear. I'm not sure if this is actually part of the body, this very sharp edge up top. It probably is. We have a sunken in feature here. Maybe this is the rear window that sits sort of inside of the body. Not sure why they would do that. It definitely intrudes on interior space when you have a window like that. But you can see it more clearly here. We have a big chamfer here. Not sure what's going on. And then it looks like we're going to have a light bar here probably, which again is going to look way too static for a Jag. A Jag again needs to have a lot of dynamic movement in not just the bodyworks, but also the graphics. You can see the greenhouse sits very, very low. Looks maybe, I'm not sure if there's going to be a hatchback or a sedan with the opening in the trunk. It looks more, I would say, like a hatchback design in this, and massive hood in the front end, which I like to see. Even though it's an EV, we can still have the A-pillar shoot down. If you follow the A-pillar all the way down, it goes straight to the center right here of the center portion of the front axle, and those are typical internal combustion engine proportions. So with that said, I'm going to show you a couple of concepts here in Photoshop from different artists, and my favorite artist is going to be this one down here. This is what I think, honestly, is very, very close to what the production version of this vehicle is going to look like. So we have the camo images right here from Car Scoops. Again, I'm going to link the full article down in the description. We have the concept right here. I made a redesign of this, changed it up a little bit, and then of course you have the side view again in concept form, and you have the rear view. Now looking, I think, let's start with the front end. The reason why I think this is going to look a lot better than the concept right here, because you see this line here, for example, and also this extremely sharp line and corner in this area right there. These lines are, these surfaces are not here. I don't think they are intact in the actual production version, at least not when I look at these curvatures here, because you see this curvature here, we have a nice beautiful curve in this area. It doesn't have a sharp edge up top like a Cybertruck edge. And looking at the headlight designs, they look again very, very static. I think it's gonna look something like this. If we can make out the outline for the headlight, it looks to be a small little chamfer here maybe, or something like that. Then we have the grille. Maybe it has some radius to it. Hopefully they add some corners, some rounded corners at least to the grille, because a Jaguar grille, it's supposed to be almost round in its shape. We can't just ditch the 100-year or whatever year history of Jaguar and just create something completely out of the norm for what the brand is supposed to be. And then again, another very static box down here for the intakes for the battery here in the lower section. But in this case, again, it looks like we have some radiuses here, which is great to see. Still a very upright design. It's still pretty boxy to me, but not as boxy, I think, at least. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Do you feel as well that this is maybe a little bit more rounded than the concept version? I think it is. Now looking at the side view here, you can see that the greenhouse of the concept, very low greenhouse, maybe too low for production, probably because they say that the greenhouse on the spy photos here is a little bit bigger. It sits a little higher here, and the hood is not as long as it was on the concept version here. So I do think it's going to be a lot of substantial changes to not just the proportions, but hopefully also the bodywork of this car. I'm not sure the outline of the greenhouse. We see some sort of line here, and then it cuts off here, but I don't think this is actually going to be the end point of the greenhouse, because this is not a very beautiful outline for the greenhouse. I want to see it stretch a little bit further back and create maybe something like this for the outline of the greenhouse. But I guess with this car, we really don't know what this is going to look like. If they drop a concept that looks like this actually has a very vertical endpoint for the greenhouse right there, the glass. So maybe that is what they're going to implement in the production version as well. I'm not sure. It looks like we have a very straight shoulder line stretching from the front end going through here into the rear end. And then in this case, we have a spoiler, I guess, in the rear end, something we didn't have on the concept version. Here it just dips down all the way down and never really comes back up to create an endpoint for the rear end. I'm glad to see that they implemented a version of an endpoint for the rear end of this concept right here. The lower section looks very, very minimalist as well, and that is, I think, the whole point of this car is just make it as minimalist as possible. I mean, that is what every single car manufacturer is doing these days. Am I a fan of it? No, not really. I think I like clean designs, but clean design doesn't mean removing everything that made the car unique and gave it a personality. That is not the way to go about this. But it looks like the rear end here is completely transformed from the concept version. Even the proportions, you see how narrow this piece is, this square box that we have, a rectangle that we have here, how narrow it is in the concept. It looks to be a lot wider. It goes out into this area now, the end point for the rear end. And I like to see that because I think that the rear end of this just is not a attractive design in any way. Probably we are going to have, it looks like maybe you have to show the taillights, of course, even if you have a camouflage test vehicles, just for safety reasons. You got to have the headlights and the taillights visible so we can see that this looks to be maybe a full light bar here. Maybe it could be, I'm not sure, but I do like the rear end wing or spoiler or chamfer that we have going on up here. This creates a beautiful endpoint for this design. So I'm very, very excited to see what this is going to look like in production form. It's going to be one unique vehicle for sure. Then we have a couple of renderings here. I don't think it's going to look like this. I just want to throw this in here because it looks pretty cool still with this front end design. We have some radiuses here in the side as well, some LEDs in the lower section. But if you look at the spy photos here, we clearly have a massive opening in the lower section, and this is something that you can't just change for the production version. This is going to have a big opening in the lower section, so that is the reason why I don't think it's going to look like this with the lights down here and lights up here. And then we have this version here. It looks pretty decent as well, very robotic, very in line with what car companies are making today. But is it Jaguar? No, not to me. It does not feel like Jaguar to me, but it's definitely a more attractive vehicle than the concept for sure, even though we have very sharp corners up here. But again, you look at this section down here, you can see that this is not what the production version is going to look like, because again, if you look at here, we have a massive intake in the lower section, which is obviously going to make it into the production version. So that is the reason why I think this right here is the closest one to the actual production version. And when I look at this, it actually looks decent to me. It looks like a good looking vehicle, but the only problem I have is we're lacking this movement that we need to have for Jaguar, because Jaguar, as I said, I mean, look at the logo. They're always been almost the more exotic or Italian brand of UK, because they had this fluid. Look at the old XK8 and the XKRs and the XJR and all of these cars, long stretched out proportions with soft surfacing and a lot of fluidity and soft lines in the bodywork. This is, to me, the complete opposite of that. Even though it is a good looking vehicle for any other brand than Jag, it would still be a pretty decent looking vehicle. So looking forward again to see what this is actually going to look like when they launch this. One thing is for sure, I mean 99% sure, I do think it's going to look at least better than the double zero concept that we've seen so far.